You have a collect call from
Taylor.
an inmate at the Washington Correctional Center. To accept the call, press 5.
There's nothing like waking up to the sound of clacking and buzzing as the doors crack in the morning after count clears. Waking up to the reality of life in prison. For some, it's just a stop along their journey, a milepost, an experience. For others, it is a revolving door, in and out, and that's their way of life, stuck in the cycle, pulling and eating away at them. And then for some, it becomes their destination, as the hammer came down and that judge issued them a death sentence. The slow way, by way of life in prison. This is The Life of a Lifer by Taylor Conley.
Keep on walking down the line. Keep on walking down the line. Keep on walking down that street. Keep on walking down the line.
Hello, friends and family. How you doing today? I tell you what, this comes with a heavy heart, but it is what it is, man. This coronavirus shit is taking over, and man, you know, we put a lot of work into putting this event together. We had Seth Anthony coming out to Washington State, to my hometown, Longview, Washington, going to do a show, the Free Taylor Show, and put on a badass concert. But unfortunately, we had to cancel it, and hopefully we'll be able to figure out when we can rearrange that and set it up again. I know a lot of people were looking forward to that, and I really was looking forward to that. It meant a lot to me, but you know, it is what it is. I understand the situation and the severity of it, so I'm disappointed. However, on the bright side, Seth's been working on a project with me, man, and we're about to. He's about to put out the video for it. If you check him out on his YouTube page, you'll be able to see the "Send Me to My Grave" video, man. He put his heart and soul into this song, telling pieces of my story through the music. I really just give it up to the guy, man. He's a great dude, really has a big heart, and man, his music is phenomenal. And so I encourage everybody to go check that out. It's going to be over on Seth Anthony's YouTube page. But with that, man, we got a cool interview coming up, so let's go ahead and get into the interview. Hey, so I'm here with Brian Dolinar. Is that how you say your name? Brian Dolinar?
That's right.
Yeah, this guy has got quite the acclaims to his name. He's a Ph.D. and an independent journalist who lives in Illinois and has done some very paramount work in regards to the ending of mass incarceration. He really is a wonderful individual and a guy who has an open mind and really kind of delves into these issues of prison. So, Brian, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. This coronavirus stuff is a little crazy, but hanging in there, man. Taking it day by day, you know.
Right. Yeah, this coronavirus stuff, man, it's like one day things were normal, and the next day, yeah, everybody's going crazy, and I hear that there's not even toilet paper on the shelves out there, man.
That's right. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Let's talk about corona inside the prisons. Like, what are people talking about there? They shutting things down there, or are you having visitations there? Or, and I'll tell you what's going on in Illinois.
Well, they shut down the visiting, so we got our visits are canceled right now, and I'm hearing that there is like some lockdown situations going on in other prisons where they have like a confirmed case of a staff member or something like that. But in where I'm at here, everybody's just waiting for it to happen because I guess soon as there is a confirmed case, they're going to lock us down. So who knows how long it's going to go for? They're saying a couple of weeks, but you know, nobody knows at this point, because each day it seems to be getting more drastic as far as the measures that the government and people are taking. The more panic that sets in, it seems like, schools are postponed out there for 6 weeks right now. They're out. So, I mean, it's speculation, but I foresee that it's coming. I know things are canceled as far as like guests or visitors coming in at this point.
Right. Well, in Illinois, I think people are being even more careful here. The Illinois Department of Corrections, the IDOC, have all the prisons on lockdown here. And we have 20-plus prisons here. We've got about 40,000 people incarcerated. The numbers have been going down, so don't quote me. But they've been on lockdown since about midweek here. And there's been a real successful campaign here to try to convince the IDOC to let folks out, people who are low risk, who are elderly, to try to get them out of prison. And there's been a letter that's been going around. They've got thousands of signatures. It went to Governor Pritzker here. And it's just got shared on social media by Sean King, who's got a big following. And a lot of people are organizing here around getting some relief for the people who are inside, who are really high risk. And so it's given folks the opportunity to really organize and further push forward on prison reform measures. So people are taking advantage of this as a way to really organize. So there's other news in Southern Illinois. In Menard, there was a flu outbreak. So people are really worried at Menard, which is a big prison here. And it's not clear to me whether or not there's been any confirmed cases in Illinois prison system yet. But people are in contact with those on the inside and trying to stay on top of what's going on here. But everything is, happening really fast. And I saw in Italy, too. In Italy, I saw when they stopped doing visitations in Italy at some of the prisons, there were riots. So it's really important for people to have contact on the inside. I mean, I'm sure y'all are feeling really anxious about this. I mean, this anxious out here, it's got to be bad in there. So I know another thing that's going on in Illinois here is that I don't know what it is there, but here our phone, our messaging systems are through Securus or GTL, the big private companies, gouging people for these, this contact. Making big profits off this industry, but the companies now are allowing for some free phone calls at this time for families. So that's something to look out for, something to put pressure on for.
Is that right? Yeah, we haven't heard anything about that. But I've heard about over in Italy that there is, some pretty crazy stuff going on inside of the prisons over there, as well as lockdowns in different states. You said that Illinois is locked down already, yeah?
It is, yeah, and you guys are way ahead of us.
Yeah.
Like Seattle's ground zero,
I think. Right. And you don't know if there's any, but I think that the problem is that there may be cases, but there ain't no testing, so people don't even know,
Right. And I just want to be clear. I know that everything is. Yeah, I know that there's no visitations, and that's what I mean by lockdown. I don't know if there's total lockdown inside the prisons now. I don't know that for sure.
Oh yeah, well we got that. They did that. Right. There's no visitation. There's nobody coming in other than just the guards. You know what I mean? But as far as
everybody's still moving around.
They're talking about locking us in ourselves for the foreseeable future. So. I don't know even what that's going to do. What good is that going to do when you have air circulated around? It doesn't make sense. But they have, some of the prisons, or at least one that I know of that I've heard about, is, actually locked in for the next couple of weeks, locked in the cells. So, and if they find a confirmed case, I guess they're going to lock us in, too. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Right. The more tests that they get in, it seems like the more it spreads around, and the more cases that they get of it. So I'm guessing it's just a matter of time here.
Mhm.
trying to make all the phone calls, get a hold of people, you know, make sure everything's all right, and just prepare to weather the storm, man. You know, you were talking about they got an initiative out there, or like something that they're passing around, getting signatures to try to let out elderly people and low risk people.
Yeah. I'm part of a campaign called Parole Illinois, and one of your guests a couple of weeks ago, Joe Dole, is one of the co-directors of the Parole Illinois campaign. And there's a couple bills coming down the pike here in Illinois, and one is focused on getting elderly out of prisons. Another one of the bills that Parole Illinois is pushing, which is 3233, a Senate bill, is folks trying to restore parole boards in Illinois. We have a prison review board, which has a terrible record of really hearing people and considering cases and set folks free who deserve consideration. But we have no parole boards. They were totally eliminated in 1978 here in Illinois. And so the campaign is trying to restore parole boards to get people hearing. We have some 5,000 people who have life sentences in Illinois. We have no death penalty here. It's been abolished as part of a campaign, and that's another story. But we have no death penalty, but in effect, we have 5,000 people that will die in prison because they have no parole access.
Right. And, okay, so I got some information on Joe Dole and, like, the organization that you're a part of there, and the things that you're working on with the parole stuff. And, you know, I noticed a lot of similarities to the Washington state system in that, you know, we don't have parole. It got abolished around the same, maybe a little bit after it did in Illinois, but and our population isn't quite as big as yours, but I think there's around 1,300 people that are sentenced to die in prison. Well, I'm one of them, you know, and there is no parole. Now they've expanded it to the juveniles, I guess, and is there something like that there?
They just passed the bill for juvenile parole board in Illinois.
Yeah.
It's pretty new. It was just like last year it passed. Yeah.
Yeah, this was pretty recent here too. So I noticed a lot of the similarities, but it taught me, like, the way that you guys put that stuff together there. You know, it was good work, man. I'm really impressed by the way that you've done it, and I've shared that with some people here, and they liked it as well. So I know Washington is working on doing parole as well. We had a bill that would have been a parole bill going through, but it ended up getting shot down in our legislative session, this legislative session right now. But they did try, and there's a bill in there right now. It's a different bill, which I'm not sure about it yet, but it would give the prosecutor and the judge basically the authority to be able to petition them, and they could potentially take your case back for resentencing based on, I guess, what you've done with yourself. Like if you've proven that you have been rehabilitated, or that you showed that you could be rehabilitated, they would revisit your sentence. And I don't know if that's a good idea to have the prosecutor, the same person that sentenced you to life in prison, to be the one that looks at it to consider it. But, I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's a problem. The prison review board here has a terrible record, and so it's gonna also involve getting review boards together and parole boards together that will really be sensitive to these issues. And so it's a big campaign. You know, it's gonna be a tough fight because of the way in which, you know, for 30, 40 years now, mass incarceration systems have been built up by totally demonizing a whole population of people and really just thinking we can throw people away and never have to worry about them again. And it's really a disregard for human life. But, you know, we've seen many cases of people turning their lives around and making good for themselves. And, you know, people do stupid things when they're young. And, after, I have a friend here, my friend Roddy Carroll, who I'm working on a campaign with Parole, Illinois. He did 31 years and just got out in December. And he's turned his life around. He's an old guy now. He's not trying to get in trouble. And he's already working out, doing car repair, and he's already got a job and got himself a car, and he's already getting his life together, And he's seen the worst of the worst. So, we have faith that guys can do it and put their lives back together and grow out of their old habits. But we have to really educate the public about this issue. And so it's so important that we're talking to one another coast to coast and state by state so that we're really sharing ideas and sharing what's working and what other people are trying. And it's really important we be in contact with one another and have these kind of conversations.
Absolutely, man. And, I've interviewed a couple of individuals that got out after serving 25 plus years, and they were sentenced to like 25 to life or a certain number to life. And in those states, they have a parole, which is very hard to meet. Like the one guy, he went before the parole board 11 times before they gave it to him, after doing nearly 30 years in prison. And, this guy, after he's gotten out, he's been able to do all kinds of good stuff because a lot of people, after serving all this time in prison and they want to do something to give back and, the next generation to try to help them not commit the same mistakes. So a lot of these lifers that end up getting out after doing all this time, that's kind of some of the things that they do. They go and this one guy started a nonprofit organization, and he's working towards trying to help the youth. And that's kind of like what I'm doing we started this organization, Design Conviction, which is a social enterprise, and we're trying to help get these stories out there, and I'm still inside serving a life sentence, but that's my goal and my personal mission is to try to help the youth and to not commit the same mistakes, to not be in these same situations. And I think that the more people that they let out that are doing positive stuff and can actually make a difference, the more difference it's going to make in the long run. It's like these cycles could be broke down. And I think that it's very important as well to keep these conversations going and unite the people that are in that struggle and working towards a better future,
Right, and I think that's what's most important is getting you guys on the inside as part of this process. You all really understand it better than anyone else. And so I think if we can really let you lead these campaigns and really give you all access, you guys, you got the solutions. You've been through it, and you know the problem inside and out. And if we just give you all the microphone and listen, and people can really listen, I think we can get beyond this. So in whatever work I do, I try to, in my journalistic work, I try to stay in touch with, interview guys on the inside, get their perspective. They give me stories that I chase down, lawsuits that I investigate, report on, some of the lawsuits filed by them, And I really try to collect those stories of guys on the inside, impacted people who really understand the problem, because y'all know how to address the issue better than anybody else. Y'all are the experts. So we did this. We had a campaign here in Illinois I was part of it called the Prison Phone Justice Campaign, and it was part of a national campaign. We went to the FCC to lobby the FCC to mandate nationally the cost of phone calls from prisons, federal prisons, and then we went to the state level here in Illinois, and we passed legislation lowering the cost of phone calls. The contract was further renegotiated, so now our phone calls are like a penny a minute, which is about the lowest in the country. And throughout that
phone
process,
calls are a penny a minute there?
a penny a minute here in Illinois now. Yep, with Securus. Yep.
Wow,
Yep.
man, we pay about, it's $2.51 for a call, 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
$2.51.
We got CPL here.
Right.
Yeah, $2.51 for a local call. For a long distance call, it's like around $3.
Right. So push them on that, that's it. And we this campaign, we always involve people formerly incarcerated, their families, involve them in the campaign. Because they could speak about how important it is for families to stay together. And the phone call is vital.
Right.
A vital line.
Yeah, the calls, the calls, they really do get us on that. It used to be more expensive. It used to be $3.50 a call. Before that, it was even more. It was like $5 and something. But they were 20-minute calls, and if you got cut off on the call, say the call cut off, it would charge you the whole amount, regardless of if you were talking for a minute or the 20 minutes. And then when they did something, they passed some law that made it to where it was by the minute, and it's 11 cents a minute, but then they add on fees and stuff to that, so it ends up,
Right.
$2.51.
Right. So yeah, we waged a campaign here in Illinois to lower the cost of phone calls, and we have different groups here in town that are doing prison work. We have something called the Education Justice Project, and they teach university classes here at the University of Illinois. I live in Urbana-Champaign. They teach university classes inside the Danville prison, and they have a number of people who have been in the classes and since gotten out of prison, and they were involved in our campaign. We have a reentry program in town here called First Followers, and in some of those folks in their early days of the program, some of those folks were involved in the campaign with us. And we took those people and, family members. I had one woman I work with. Her name was Wangel Harvey Robinson, and she was a young woman. Both of her parents were incarcerated when she was in the 3rd grade. And she grew up talking to her parents on the phone, going through high school prom, telling her parents about it over the phone while they're in prison. And so we took Wangel to Springfield here to the state capitol and put Wangel in front of state legislators. And she told her story about how important the phone calls are and how important it is to stay in contact and how expensive it was and how people had to make a decision, groceries, pay the electric bill or pay this phone bill, And so it was really because we had impacted people as part of our campaign that we were able to win on that one. So I just want to, in all my work, and I want to, convey to other people how important it is to involve impacted people in any kind of campaign we're doing around the prison system here.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely sounds like it was a good thing there, and I'm glad that you guys made that headway and they heard you. A lot of times it's hard to get heard, or they'll hear you, but they won't actually do nothing about it. So It sounds like the work that you're doing is getting somewhere. And so, where are you getting to on the parole stuff? How's that going?
We're trying to get a bill moving. It's still in the early phases, and it's a tough issue. But right now we're trying to build our base. We had a online petition that went around. We collected a bunch of contacts. We got over 1,000 contacts of people who want to be a part of the campaign in one way or another. And so now we're kind of moving into a phase where we're trying to, get some good legislation and get some support behind it. One of the organizers for downstate Illinois, and the Chicago machine has its own way of doing things, but we're trying to organize things here in downstate Illinois, where most of the prisons are, and where we still have a lot of people down here who run through the prison system. And so this year we have a good deal. Last year there was an issue that there was a bill floated, but then there were a number of carve-outs so that people who had committed some heinous crimes, sex crimes, those cases were cut out. And because of those carve-outs, the people who are leading the campaign is a group of incarcerated people in Stateville prison. Those people found it they could not support the bill with the carve-outs. And so the bill was eventually killed. And so now we're trying to get a bill with no carve-outs because we think everybody deserves a hearing and a second chance. So it's important that we stay, strong on our issues and stay united on our issues. I think once we start throwing people under the bus, we lose support. And as they say, all of us are none, right? So that's what we're trying to lead with.
Well, it sounds like that's the same thing that happened here on this bill that we had going. We had this bill going in the Senate, and it basically did the same thing. It started out including everybody, and then they whittled it down to where they took basically all murder, all 3 strikes. Do you guys have 3 strikes there?
We don't have 3 strikes technically, no. They call it.
They took all that off the table basically, and then it just ended up kind of they couldn't agree on the terms of it. Lost a lot of support because of that, and then it just died. So now they're trying to regroup on getting it together, but there's a lot of people that say, get it passed, and then you can add on to it and expand it. But honestly, I feel like if they do that, it's never going to happen. It's just going to end up being a watered down version of it,
Mm-hmm.
And the politics involved in it is so abundant that, the certain politicians, they don't want to support it because what if you let somebody out and something happens and then they're on the hook for it because they passed it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that seems to be the biggest issue, and a lot of them don't support like murders or even if it'll let out. And see, that's the thing that people get misconstrued is it doesn't mean that everybody's going to get out. It just means that people will have this opportunity to get looked at if they've, met the qualifications and they've demonstrated that they have the ability to change,
Right. Yeah.
So it's really a difficult uphill battle, man. But I know in Washington State, it sounds like you guys down there are really getting more and more support for it, because I've talked to a lot of people that really just don't even know that there isn't a parole system in place, right? And that's a big thing right there. People don't even understand that there is no parole. Like most of the people that I've gotten in contact with that I haven't talked to for a long time, or people that I've met that I've told my story to, and tell them that I got life from prison, and they're like, yeah, but you'll get parole after 25 years, right? Or after 15 or 20 years, right? No, there is no parole. There's what? What do you mean there's no parole? Life sentence, that means you know what I mean? You get a chance to, no, there is no chance. There's nothing. There's a clemency process in which there's a minute amount of people that actually get to even see that board, and then just a tiny sliver of a fraction of people that really actually get out, and especially if you have a life sentence. So.
Yeah. What I found out here, and I just found out about this, was talking about my friend Ronnie Carroll today, that the parole was eliminated here in Illinois in 1978. They tried to float a bill to abolish parole and a bunch of other restrictive measures in early 1978, but in July 22nd, 1978, there was the riot at Pontiac Prison, and it was a nasty riot, and not unlike the one that took place in Nautica in 1971, and these riots were taking place throughout these years in prisons, and for a number of reasons. And so it was after that Pontiac riot in 1978 that the bill 1500 was passed and parole was eliminated in Illinois here. So there's still political reasons and historical reasons why this legislation has been passed through. Much of it had to do with real sharp backlash, and it was instrumental to building up this current system of mass incarceration where we got 2.3 million people locked up and 6 million people on parole and probation, and et cetera, et cetera. Plus, so it's This is, the system has been incrementally, there's been some reforms. Some of the numbers have been shrinking here. The Cook County Jail, which used to be filled with 10,000 people, the largest single-site jail facility in the United States, is gone down several thousand. They're like 6,000, 7,000 people now. So, and that's largely out of, real activist measures. In Chicago, there's the Chicago Community Bond Fund that's been bailing people out of jail at Cook County. And so there are reform measures that are working in the prison population in Illinois has been going down, but it's been happening very slowly. And it's only been as a result of political pressure. In my 15 years of working on prison issues, it's only Ferguson, the explosion in Ferguson, that Ferguson changed everything. There's before Ferguson and after Ferguson, as far as I'm concerned. And that really changed the national psyche about these issues. But that's only because the real people in communities were organizing. And so the more we organize, and the less we rely on politicians, the more we organize one another. Families, people on the inside, people on the outside, activists, people concerned, the more we organize, I think that's how we get the goods.
Because when you really think about it, there's a lot of people that get infected by incarceration that aren't incarcerated. You mentioned, the sons and daughters of individuals that are incarcerated, but not only that, there's all the brothers, sisters, mothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, and, there's so many people incarcerated that it's hard to find people that don't have somebody in touch with somebody that's incarcerated.
Right.
And it's not only that, but to the common person who maybe doesn't even know anything about incarceration personally, doesn't have anything related to it, but it affects them in more ways than they may realize as well with their tax dollars and what's going on with all the spending that they spend on security measures when they don't take those same dollars that they could spend on rehabilitation or education and stop the cycle of mass incarceration and start educating people and rehabilitating them and then letting them out to get back into society. If you look at models of other countries, we're like basically the only Western civilized country in the world that locks people up and doesn't let them back out. It really doesn't make sense, man. It really doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it affects so many people.
It's astronomical, man, and it really affects everybody, because when you look at it and you look at the current system that we have and all the people that get out and go back to doing the same thing and then come back again and they're out there, making issues in society that affect everybody. And the current system that they have doesn't really focus on rehabilitating or educating. They're just now starting to really allow education more to come into the system, but they don't want to spend money on that for some reason. They just want to keep perpetuating the cycle. I think it all has to do with money, right? But if they were to allocate those dollars to spending on education, you would see that cycle diminish and allowing people the opportunity to get out, parole or whatever mechanism that becomes available to people, that instead of just giving life sentences out like that's okay, especially young people who come into the system. Like I was 20 years old and I ended up getting a life without the possibility of parole sentence. Well, my life was over before it started, and so I'm going to be in prison for 60, 70 years until I die, while I grew up and I learned a lot of different things and have been able to overcome so much and get myself right and do a bunch of amazing things and help a lot of people, but yet I'm still just going to be stuck in prison, not to mention that I'm not even guilty of what it is that I got convicted of to begin with. So it becomes a real problem to the fact of not only are you not humanizing people? You're just taking away lives for the rest of their lives from that family, from everybody, and not being able to contribute back for any things that I've done. Don't get me wrong, like I've done a lot of bad things in my life and I deserve to come to prison. I feel like I've earned that for myself, besides all the things that I've gone through that led me to here. You know, I was in this place called Tranquility Bay when I was 15 until I was close to 17, that these places got condemned and shut down because they were deemed to be torturous to children. We went through a lot of different crazy stuff on that journey. It was in Jamaica, and they had a whole system of these programs called behavioral modification programs that were ran in these different countries so that way they could get away with abusing kids. The parents really didn't have an idea of what they were sending their kids to. They just knew that they were supposed to fix them, and they would lie to them and tell them all these things. Well, it came out later on, and when I came back from that place, I was pretty damaged, man. I went through a lot of trauma and a lot of different crazy shit, and shortly after that, I ended up getting a life sentence in prison. You know, and these are the type of mitigating factors that not a lot of people probably went through those same set of circumstances, but everybody goes through their different stuff when they're growing up, and a lot of that is what leads them to end up being in prison to begin with. So when you go back and you look at that, especially young people, and then, you know, they grow up like I grew up, I matured, and I started learning to do things for myself and taking responsibility for myself, and, you know, I'm a fully functioning, responsible adult. I'm married now. I have like a life, even though I'm doing life in prison. I've been able to demonstrate that, but yet I don't have an opportunity to ever get out at this point. And there's many other people that have similar stories. I'm not like unique, you know. There's a lot of people. I know a guy that lives right next to me that's been in prison for 37 years since he was 22 years old. You know, and this guy, he does volunteers more of his time to helping people and making a difference in people's lives than anybody. You know, 7 days a week he's doing stuff. He's made a big difference and a big impact on a lot of young guys that are coming into this system, into their lives to try to make a difference, man. So, you know, a 60-year-old guy like that, why shouldn't he get a shot to get out? You know?
Yeah, man, it's so important you keep telling your story. I just want to encourage you, you know. It's so important you keep telling people about your story. So, you know, I encourage you to keep talking, and, you know, just want to tell you, stay at it.
I appreciate you coming on, Brian.
Thanks for having me. You stay strong, brother.
You too, man. You too, and we'll keep in contact.
Okay, we'll do that. Hang in there.
All right. Stay safe and stay inside, man. Don't catch the corona.
You too, man.
All right. Take care.